So today we're going to look at one of the most intense scenes that I've been a part of filming. This is a scene from The Outcasts, a film that's streaming now on PBS. There's a link below, part of the Life on the Line series. So this scene comes right after a fistula surgery. So the surgeon is just finishing that up. She's tired, and a pregnant woman who has been in labor for a very long time out in a village comes in. Let's just play the scene now, and then we'll come back and talk about it afterwards. So let's go ahead and watch it. Let me get my headphones on.
As Rebecca begins her recovery in post-op, another patient, Isabel, is brought into the operating room. She's been in labor all night, and she just arrived at the hospital. She's not only at high risk of developing a fistula, but at this point, her health and her baby's health is at risk too.
She's been in labor all night, and the baby's not coming down. The head is hitting the pubic bone so hard. So imagine if the head was hitting that so long and the baby couldn't come out. If they're at home in the village, then that's how fistulas form. It makes that tissue die in between the bladder and the vagina, and then a fistula forms.
Dr. Netteburg begins a C-section surgery, the safest way for Isabel to deliver her baby and to prevent complications like a fistula. But when the baby comes out, there's a problem.
Baby's floppy. Sorry, sad story.
Je could le crier or no? Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Yay! Oh, my word. Bon travail. Wow.
The baby was sicker than I thought. We don't have fetal monitoring here, so I actually didn't think the baby would live, so I'm very happy that the baby finally cried and they were able to resuscitate the baby. She could have easily had a fistula because she was in labor for so long. If she would have delivered at home, she would have hemorrhaged and died. And the baby would have died too, because as you see, we barely saved the baby here, but the baby would have died and the mom would have died.
That is a pretty intense scene. So let me try and talk through filming a scene like that a little bit. First of all, we almost didn't film this. We were kind of done filming for the day, and then we got word that there was a woman coming in who was in labor. We were making a film about fistulas, not about childbirth, but we decided, okay, let's go ahead and film this. And so it was the DP, Austin, and myself who went and filmed it. We were filming on two Panasonic GH5s. I had the 12 to 35 lens and also I think a 70 to 200. I think I was on the 12 to 35 during this scene. And Austin was on a wider zoom lens too, I believe. So when you're filming something like this, the first thing that in my mind as the director is that, okay, I need to tie this into the idea of fistulas. So I wanted to get some sound bites before surgery started about how this tied into fistulas and how this woman was at risk of getting a fistula. So we took care of that so that the scene would fit in the film. And then we went in, the surgeon decided to do a C-section, and we thought it was just going to be a regular C-section, and we film it, and then the baby came out and wasn't breathing. This is the second time I've filmed a scene like this where there's a C-section and the baby came out, wasn't breathing, and then was ultimately saved, which doesn't happen all the time, unfortunately. So when you're filming like this, the things that I kind of keep in mind is framing. Okay, let's make sure that we're getting our shots. We're not filming anything, for the most part, that we can't use. So we have to film around maybe direct surgery shots, because some of that, I know eventually executive producers, other people at the distribution might come back and say this is too graphic. So we don't want to film too much of that. We don't have any of that in this scene. And then the other thing to really, for me to keep in mind always, is film the action. And then once you have the action, get the reverse shot, right? So the baby comes out, we make sure we follow the baby, we get those baby shots, but then we turn around and get the surgeon and we get the reaction shots. Let's go ahead and watch it and let's talk through, I'll pause it and we'll talk through some of the stuff.
As Rebecca begins her recovery in post-op, another patient, Isabel, is brought into the operating room. She's been in labor all night, and she just arrived at the hospital.
So the voiceover helps to set it up a little bit that we're dealing with something that's at least a little intense, right? She's been in labor all night, just got to the hospital.
She's not only at high risk of developing a fistula, but at this point, her health and her baby's health is at risk too.
So setting the stakes for the scene and also tying it back into the entire film that's about fistula.
She's been in labor all night, and the baby's not coming down. The head is hitting the pubic bone so hard.
So here, right, the framing, let's go back a couple frames here, but we're just framing it so that we mostly see her face. We see the intensity of what's happening. And we make sure we're not kind of filming anything that we don't need to see or that might have to be edited out.
Hitting the pubic bone so hard. So imagine if the head was hitting that so long and the baby couldn't come out, if they're at home in the village, then that's how fistulas form. It makes that tissue die in between the bladder and the vagina, and then a fistula forms.
So there, she's kind of saying what we said in voiceover already, right? But she is the expert. She's the surgeon. So we kind of generally cover it with the voiceover. But then we have the expert talk a little bit more in depth about it, but also in a way that people like me can understand.
Dr. Netteburg begins a C-section surgery, the safest way for Isabel to deliver her baby and to prevent complications like a fistula.
So positioning, we had one of us at the side of the bed facing the surgeon for most of this scene. And then the other, I think it was myself, I was kind of at the head of the table. I was covering both the shots of the mother and then also side shots of the surgeon. I think I was on the longer lens here, probably the 70 to 200.
But when the baby comes out, there's a problem.
Baby's floppy.
And they're just cutting to the music, using the music to build and then set some more tension.
Sorry, sad story.
And here we're following the action, right? We're following the baby, making sure that we get the shots that we need following the action. And honestly, just hoping that the baby survives. And also really trying to stay out of the way. That's the big thing also when you're filming medically, like you do not want to be in the way.
C'est lui? J'écoute le crier ou non?
So at this point, I think I was on this camera, and Austin, the DP, once we got the initial action of the baby being delivered and the resuscitation starting, I think that I came over to this angle and stayed on Dr. Netteburg, the surgeon, and Dustin, the DP, stayed on the baby. If I'm remembering right, I think that's what we did to make sure we had both angles covered.
Come on, baby.
So this shot, when I edited it, I really liked kind of lingering on this a little bit, right? We know that the baby is delivered. We know that the baby's having issues. The mother has is not under general anesthesia. She's under spinal, so she can't feel anything from a certain point down, but she's awake. She knows what's going on. And so I wanted a shot or two where we can linger for just a second or two, just for a beat or two on the mother, just to identify with her and to feel her emotion a little bit.
Come on, baby. Yay! Oh my word.
And here, just it's not a long scene, but just there where it's just music, just shots of what's happening. And then when Dr. Netteburg, says, "Oh my word," you can feel that relief in the room.
Bon travail. Wow. The baby was sicker than I thought. We don't have...
I gotta say, it always surprises me when I see how rough it seems that they are with babies, especially when they're trying to stimulate them. But it's obviously proper practice.
Fetal monitoring here, so I actually didn't think the baby would live, so I'm very happy that the baby finally cried and they were able to resuscitate the baby. She could have easily had a fistula because she was in labor for so long. If she would have delivered at home, she would have hemorrhaged and died. And the baby would have died too, because as you see, we barely saved the baby here, but the baby would have died and the mom would have died.
So there again, just, setting the stakes for the importance of this hospital, of this location, and then ending with some really nice shots of the baby. I think it's called kangarooing, where they put the baby right next to the mother. I think that's one of the better ways for newborns to be healthy once they're born. So and I like that, just lingering on that shot for a little bit, no music, and then we had a fade to black into the next scene because it's such an intense scene. It's just, okay, give the viewers a second to see the baby with the mom, give them a second to, fade to black and come up to the next scene so that everyone can just kind of reset and take in that it's an intense scene. It's always very intense. Probably one of the top 3 most intense scenes that I've ever filmed. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. Questions, comments below. Give me a like if you like it, and I'll try and keep making content like this. Thanks for watching.